I'm going to say a word and you have to tell me what the first thing that comes to your mind is. Bugs. Did you say delicious? No, I didn't think so. But that's what they want you to think when they say the word bugs. Now, this is odd to some people. It probably confused a bunch, and 20% of people just left. But listen, don't leave the room because we're going to look at information that suggests you are going to have that on your dinner plate. Does that sound delicious to you? Well, let's break it all down. Follow the money and you will see in recent years there's a growing interest in the idea of insect-based agriculture as a solution to feeding a growing world population. However, there are also important ethical, cultural, health, and personal considerations to take into account when discussing the future of our food system. Today, we're going to look at this, and I want to actually share my personal thoughts on the issue as well. I think that some people could say there are benefits and the reasons why we would want mass consumption of bugs, but personally for me, I don't believe that we should advocate it, and especially I don't think that we should be forcing it on people. That's the difference. People should do what they want, but not be forced into it. And we'll get into all the reasons why I think it's going to be forced upon the population. I think if somebody wants to get their protein, which is what they're telling you, there are many different sources of that, depending on your dietary restrictions and so on. You could have nuts and seeds and beans and animals and whatever it is that you consume. You don't have to go and eat crickets and worms and all these different things that they're starting to suggest is something that you got to be eating, not just for your own sake, but for the planet. While they ride around and do whatever they want. We're going to get into that in these articles right here. Stick with me. They're allowed to do whatever they want. You, not the case. Who am I talking about? I'll get into that in just a second. This is a conversation that everybody needs to be involved in, not just a few people at the top. Am I right? Okay. Cultural and psychological barriers is one aspect we'll look at. And in many parts of the world, eating insects is not a common practice. And some people may find the idea unappealing or even repulsive. There may be cultural or religious beliefs that prohibit the consumption of certain types of insects. So you can't just force it on people. Some places, they might do that. I remember even going to a Mexican restaurant where the very first thing that I was told by the waiter was, do you want to eat some crickets? And I needed to sort of do a double take on that, but they asked me about crickets. And of course I said, no, thank you. But maybe that's common for some. But the point here is that you should have that choice. Allergies, just like with any other type of food, some people may have allergic reactions to certain types of insects. It's important that we be aware of any potential allergies before consuming insect-based products. They're going to put this out onto the market. They've already started to, as I'll show you in a second, and nobody really knows. We didn't grow up eating that. So what are the ramifications? Risk of disease. Insects can carry diseases and parasites that can be harmful to humans, while insect-based products are generally considered safe to consume according to the institutions. There are always going to be that risk of contamination, and if it's not something we know the long-term effects of, that could be a problem. Sustainability concerns. While insect-based agriculture is often touted as a more sustainable and efficient form of food production, there are still concerns about the sustainability of large-scale insect farming operations. And I can't even believe I'm even saying that. For example, some critics argue that the environmental impact of insect farming may be comparable to that of traditional livestock agriculture. But there's a whole different scenario here that we don't have time to get into, but the whole agribusiness, the way that it's set up right here and now, it is just terrible to begin with. We've lost our way. Lack of regulation. In many parts of the world, insect-based products are not yet regulated or standardized, which can make it difficult for consumers to know exactly what they're getting. It's important to consider these potential negatives when evaluating the benefits and the drawbacks of insect-based agriculture and make decisions for yourself. Don't let them decide this. I want to show you what's going on here. Look, this is behind me, the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum, the elite, the so-called elite, well, they want you to eat bugs. Why we need to give insects a role they deserve in our food system. That's right, they deserve it. They've got rights too, right? What about this? Record private jets flights into Davos as leaders arrive for climate talk. This is absolutely hypocritical. They're telling you that there's carbon emissions, they're a big problem, and at the same time, thousands of jets are flying into this place to talk about that very thing. It doesn't make a single ounce of sense until you realize the whole idea is that those guys riding around in their private jets into Davos are the ones that are not going to be eating the worms. They're not going to be restricted in any way. But you get your carbon allowance, you get your mealworm for breakfast. Delicious, right? And you don't have a say in the matter. Do you understand? Do you see what this is all about? That's what we're dealing with. And that brings me to all of these different articles that are going to be advocating essentially for the consumption, why you need to consume it, why, what's happening, all the details of that. Let me show you. And at the end of this video, I'm going to link to something that connects to this. So this is just one step. This is just one aspect. In this other video, I'm going to show you some further details. I'll link to it at the end. Stick with me. Food shortages will continue unless Congress acts. Okay, you're probably thinking, well, okay, I can see that sounds pretty good, whatever. Food shortages, we know that. There are certain cases where there are food shortages. We experienced that, quite significantly during 2020, where they couldn't process foods and things. So that was an issue. The cattle industry is the largest segment of American agriculture, and beef derived from cattle is the second most consumed livestock protein in the United States. Despite its importance, just 3 years ago, consumers went to their grocery stores and for the first time they could not buy the beef they needed for their families. Beef shelves were empty. And so they say, look, we got to do something about this. We got to do the only thing. Look, let's look at the problems. Let's see what it is. We're causing the emissions, the supply, we can't keep up. So what is the solution? You've got to eat bugs, ladies and gentlemen. You got to eat those bugs. No, the elites won't, but you have to. Eating insects will soon go mainstream as bug protein is set to explode into an $8 billion business. By the way, I should have gone back here. Let me go back one. I may trigger some people. If you get triggered easily by the sight of all these bugs and stuff, you might want to close your eyes. I'm going to show you some, unusual things. Let me look at this once again, because for investors, I think it's going to be huge because they're going to do it. They're going to go through with it. People will say, I will opt out. All processed food will likely start to contain this stuff. And if anybody's eating any form of processed food, they will be consuming it. Maybe they'll feed it to the animals that you're eating. So if you eat animals, maybe they're going to start to grind up these insects, give them to the animals eat it, you kind of indirectly are eating it. Maybe they already do, like chickens, for instance. But this is the wild chickens, I should say. But this is what's happening. Look at it. They're expanding the industry rapidly. Why the West needs to wake up to edible insects. Now, some places, like I said, they're already eating insects. It's not unusual to include that in some dishes and things. But, okay, the point is that we shouldn't be forced into it. If you saw a bug on your kitchen shelf, you would run out and start planning dinner? Or would you run out or would you start planning dinner? About 2 million people around the world, mostly across Africa, Asia, South America, already eat more than 2,100 species of insects. Right. But the point here is that's 2 million people versus like 8 billion. So it's kind of a different scenario. I don't think people should be looking at this as like the solution. Let them eat bugs. European Commission approves some insects for human consumption. So it's happening. The laws are being put in place to make it legal. They're packaging them up. Already they have these in some spots, which contains not necessarily like whole insects, but they grind it up. They put it into a flour And then I don't know what people are going to do with that. But anyway, that's sort of already there. But I think in processed food, as well as being fed to the livestock, that will probably be happening right around the corner. Austin-based company wants you to eat Cricket protein bars. You see, you want your protein. Why are you getting it from whey protein? Why are you getting that from beans and whatever? Why are you doing this when you could just be eating some crickets? They make annoying sounds. Why don't we just eat them all? I mean, what are we talking about here? This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy when you think about it, because you know these elites aren't going to eat it. Maybe they might show one where they're on TV and they're eating into that. My goodness. Eat bugs. It's what's for dinner. Yes, that is the title of this Forbes article. Can't believe it. Here we are. Some gross stuff right in here. You can enjoy it if you want. I will not, personally. Would you eat a mealworm pizza, a grasshopper stir fry, a cricket curry, a deep fried tarantula? This is exactly what two teams of academics propose as the main protein source for livestock and people. You get that? This is happening. Whether we like it or not, they're going to try and force it on everybody. Would you eat insects to help the planet? These companies are betting yes. So there's a lot of money, there's a lot of investment here. That's the whole point. And I think it is imperative that we realize that if we do not work on our pillars of prosperity, we're going to be in big trouble. What is the pillars of prosperity? Number one pillar is your self-sufficiency and preparation. You can have your own garden, you could have your own livestock if that's what it takes, or you can know somebody and you do a direct exchange between you two. So that guy's got the farm, that guy's got the chicken eggs that you like, and you say, okay, you got the chicken eggs, I got this thing, we'll exchange, we've got that going on. That's one factor, okay? And the second is increasing your income. Increasing your income really important because inflation's coming up on services and on products, everything you buy. So you've got to do at least one of the two pillars. This is very important, pillars of prosperity. I told you about another video. Have you seen it yet? You've got to click on it. You've got to watch it because that's going to explain the next step. You don't want to lose out. Click this video right here. Should be popping up on the screen, and I'll see you there.